Thousands of people descended on the Zulu Royal Palace on Saturday. This as the new King Misuzulu Kazwelithini was crowned during a colorful ceremony. Amidst the lingering succession dispute, King Kazwelithini ascended the throne that was previously held by his late father, King Goodwill Zwelithini Kabheki Zulu. To help us unpack the discussion, we are now joined by Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Mr. Obed Babela, who's joining us in studio. And via Zoom, we are joined by Prince Mbonisi Kabheki Zulu, as well as culture analyst Mntwana Nkosinathi Zulu. Tonight on Unfiltered, we ask, what is the case, or what's the cause, rather, of traditional succession disputes? And as we know that this is nothing new. Deputy Minister, good evening, and thank you so much for making time for us. Of course, this is nothing new. These are disputes that even had to be dealt with by a commission.
Well, definitely, and good evening to the viewers. It's not new and unfortunately still happening. And we are engaging with the traditional leaders and the kings to say, can we find another new formula under democratic South Africa? Because in the past, obviously, the stronger you were able then to go and conquer. And then that's how the disputes used to be settled. But we can't do so under the peaceful times. And as a result, the new law, the Traditional Quiescent Leadership Act, had to put in a section which was not there in law for the president and also for the premier in the province to have a section 59, which allows them that should a dispute not continue forever and out of the courts, obviously they can then establish a mechanism where they can appoint people who will then listen to all sides, bring all the families together, and then try to go through history, genealogy, and everything, and get to understand the disputes and see if they cannot bring an amicable solution. But obviously others tend to go to courts, and then once the matter is in court, then we don't have much that we can do. There was the longest dispute in South Africa, King of Amampondo, Zanuzuko Sita, who just passed on. For almost 11 years, they were in court, from the High Court to the Constitutional Court to the Appeals Court, and until after 11 years of him not being able to ascend to the throne because of the dispute. We don't think this is occurring well for the nations that they are leading.
Yeah. And when those people are being set up via the section that you just referred to now, is there an indication or guidance that's given that says that these are the people who should form part of, let's say, mediators or the council that will advise the premier as well as the president? Well,
the premier will then decide who in that province. He will then bring in some specialists, knowledgeable people in culture, experts, and then also those who understand the culture and tradition of that particular group or nation that is there. And in KwaZulu-Natal, the former Premier Sihle Zikalala had appointed Willis Mkhunu, who was the Premier before him, to say, can you lead this team for me so that even the side of the law can also be understood, and see if we cannot. But unfortunately, by the time they concluded their business, the matter was in court in Pietermaritzburg High Court, and Judge Madondo then concluded on the matter that certainly King Misuzulu Kabheki Zulu is the king, and therefore all cultural and traditional matters been followed according to the judgment. Based on that, the president then released the certificate, because the certificate had to be held back, but then see if the dispute is settled or not settled. Whilst we're waiting for Willis Mkhunu, Mr. Willis Mkhunu, and the Judge Madondo, then they came up with the judgment. It gave the leeway to the president to say the court is the arbiter, the highest arbiter in the land, so therefore I will then release the certificate.
So as far as the state is concerned, King Misuzulu is the rightful heir to the throne, and only if there is a challenge in court would there then mean that the process needs to stop, because there's also the handing over of the certificate that needs to happen. The formal coronation is.
The certificate is already issued.
Yeah.
King Misuzulu has the certificate. What was going to happen is the state conjoined with culture coronation that is going to take place, and that's where the president will ceremoniously give the certificate and hand it over, with the judge who will then confer. And that's all what happens. It's a new mechanism That was only done with King of Amaxhosa, Zolonke. And then now this is going to be the second activity that is going to happen, should the courts not prevent it at the time. But for now, it's all systems go. But obviously those who are in court have the right to go and dispute. However, I hope that the royal family members across all royal families in South Africa, not only in the Zulus, should really find ways of managing disputes in the family and arrive at amicable solutions that continuously do not then continue to play themselves out. And I hope, therefore, that King Misizulu has already called for unity, and I hope, therefore, that there will be some kind of convergence and coming together of the family, so that even before that big coronation happens at the Moses Mabhida Stadium, we hope, therefore, this matter will be history.
Would have been resolved by then. We are also joined by cultural expert and analyst, Mntwana Nkosinathi Zulu. Thank you so much for making time for us this evening. What do you make of this dispute over the throne? And by this weekend, we had 3 contenders to saying or contending that they are the rightful heirs.
Angibingelele kakhulu umphathi wehlelo kanye nesivakashi sethu esikhona wesicukuthwane sethu. Kulula kakhulu. Okubalekile kubantu bakithi ungabalekeli isiko nokulandela imigudu efanele uma ngabe uzobekwa inkosi noma isilo. Okubalekile isintu noma isiko linendlela yalo yokuqoka inkosi. Inkosi ayikhethwa kodwa inkosi iyazalwa. So ngokuzaleka kwayo inkosi usuke indlunkulu yonke ilazi iqiniso ukuthi uyena bani okufanele abe isilo esilandelayo noma inkosi elandelayo. So ke kulo msebenzi okade wenziwa ngathi izitepu zonke zilandeliwe njengokwesiko. Isiko ilona ebeligayida ukubekwa kwisilo esikhona njengamanje esihleziyo esihlalweni.
But what is that based on?
Yes.
What sort of precedents are we relying on to say that King Misizulu is the rightful heir to the throne? Because if we look at the Nhlapo report, it has various processes and mechanisms that led to kings being, there was even a nomination from one of the wives who had said that, listen, we have been told by the king at the time that the rightful heir in this case is Prince Cyprian or King Cyprian, when King Cyprian's dad himself had not nominated anyone.
Okay, kahle uma ngabe kuzoqokwa inkosi inkosi okokuqala ifike iganwe amakhosikazi. Kulawo makhosikazi ilapho khona okudetermine khona inkosi elandelayo. So kule case esikhuluma ngayo isilo esikhotheme besinamakhosikazi ayisithupha angene ngamasango lapha yaKwaZulu. Kodwa kulamakhosikazi ayisithupha noma kulabo ndlunkulu abayisithupha abakhona uyedwa kuphela uNdlunkulu olotsholwe isizwe. So kwekwenzakhaleni ke unkosikazi wokuqala izilobolela yona ngokwamandla ayo kuba unkosikazi wasekhaya osimbiza ngoNdlunkulu wokuqala, bese kuthi nobizwa obasesandleni esikhulu, bese sekuzoba khona osesandleni esincane ukuba wesibili okuthiwa wasekhohlo kuba uNdlunkulu. So kuNdlunkulu besilo bekukhona uNdlunkulu uMadlamini okuyena wangena kuqala, kube khona uNdlunkulu ukaMathe, kube khona uNdlunkulu uMantombi, kube khona uNdlunkulu ukaGatsheni, kube khona uNdlunkulu ukaMchiza, bese kuzoba khona uNdlunkulu kaMafu. Lamakhosikazi ayisithupha noma labo Ndlunkulu bayisithupha bonke banezi ndima zabo abayidlalayo. Kodwa kuba wonke labo Ndlunkulu umunye kuphela inkosi eyathuma indunankulu wesizwe ukuthi ngicela ungiyele emakhosini atshele izinduna ukuthi inkosi isibone imbali kwelaseSwatini umntana enkosi ifuna ukumthatha imlethe kwaZulu. Kulapho ke khona sonke isizwe sikaZulu sasukuma phansi kwahlanganiswa inkomo zathunyelwa esilweni ukuba ziyolobola kwelamaswati noma kwela kaNgwane. loyo ndlunkulu ngongena kwakhe kanjalo noma futhi ubheka esigabeni unkosikazi oqala ufika ngene isandla esikhulu owesibili angene kwesincane olandela lowo kwesithathu ungena kwesikhulu kanjalo futhi uma ulandela isiko uma ngabe endlunkulu ingabangabikho inkosana kuyokungenelele indlu yesithathu kodwa la sithola ukuthi uNdlunkulu waseSwatini unegazi lasebukhosini uzoganela ebukhosini ngokwesiko lakithi kwabantu noma lesinguni lokho kukodwa kumenza ukuthi indodana azoyizala kube yiyona ezoba inkosana yaleso sizwe noma yalowo mndeni lo.
Okay.
Kunomehluko ke phakathi kwenkosana yesiko.
Okay, so we're going to come back and pick up on that. A conversation that I want to have a bit later on as well is how is it that what has happened then becomes part of precedents and therefore forming part of customs, as I've just painted out a bit earlier on as well. You see that when it comes to the succession and the heirs to the throne, that there have been different processes that have been followed. There hasn't been any single process that we can say that this is the process that the Zulu nation has followed when it comes to the appointment or the installation of a king. That conversation when we come back.
Enjoy the best investment rate in South Africa, whatever your needs. Open a fixed deposit account and earn 12.5% interest. Invest today. African Bank. Audacity to believe.
A lot of these houses are little tiny. My suitcase might not even fit in the bedroom.
It's gonna give me a heart attack. Definitely not my taste, and I would never choose anything in this room.
Getting dressed up, I don't do it. I only wear flip-flops.
This is radically wrong.
The 21st century, who does this?
They've got cats crawling all over everything.
Oh, I wonder how they get out of the house.
Oh, we're gonna have a couple of tough days here.
That's an understatement. I could not live like this. This would drive me up the wall.
Celebrity Wife Swap USA, Fridays at 6. Open up to S3.
Hi, I'm Lerato Mvelase. I play the character of Nokolo on The Estate. Weekdays, 7 p.m. on S3. Open up.
SAFTA's 16th, the South African Film and Television Awards. These are the nominees framing the future for S3. Aubrey Poe for Best Actor in a Telenovela on The Estate. Don Mlangeni for Best Actor in a Telenovela on The Estate. Mapungubwe echoes in the Valley for Best Made-for-TV Documentary. Murder in Paris for Best Achievement in Cinematography in a Documentary. Murder in Paris for Best Achievement in Editing in a Documentary. Murder in Paris for Best Achievement in Sound in a Documentary. Root for your favorite S3 talent on Saturday the 3rd of September 2022. Catch the live red carpet event at 6:30 and the live main event at 7 on S3. Open up.
Good evening and welcome back to Unfiltered as we look at the succession battle and zooming in on the Zulu nation. Joining us now via the telephone line is Prince Mbonisi. Prince Mbonisi, good evening and thank you so much for making time for us. What do you make of what has transpired over the past 2 weeks, and also, as I indicated to my guest a bit earlier on as well, is that by this weekend we had 3 people claiming to be the rightful heirs to the throne?
Thank you for having me, and also good evening to your viewers. The first thing that you're talking about is very touching to me, because when you're touching, correcting about the crown and what happened over the weekend, it touches my heart, because it's a very respectful place, and to us, we were told it's a holy place where anyone can get inside besides the order of the king. So what happened over the weekend, we take it as something that was not followed according to the teachings of our late king. Because there are certain times where one has to get inside the cross on special occasions. So what happened? There were no order by the king. You cannot say you are putting one of the king's sons into the cross without their fathers, the lives of ourselves and the brothers of the late king. Whoever gets inside there must have the blessings, because the king left us as his brothers to look after the affairs of the family. This is confirmed by the letter which was sent by the late king to President Mandela, stating clearly to the whole South Africans that whoever dealing with the matters of the kingship, dealing with the matters of my family, are the ones that have been listed. We'll give you the copy of the registered people that were elected by the king to represent his matters.
Yeah, so we have the list here. It's a list of around 20 people, but the letter itself doesn't really specify and says that this is the council that will also deal with issues relating to who succeeds me.
You know, I'm sorry I didn't pick that one, but I did pick up that you have a list. Most of them have passed away.
Yes.
But who can change what the king said? Because the word of the king is the last word that has to be respected. So to us, it's a disgrace performing certain duties without including people that are supposed to be dealing with the matters that are the ones that has to discuss the matters pertaining the throne and the matters of the entire royal family. He selected people, not everyone. The people that are doing this are not part of that list. I'm saying proudly because I'm one of them.
Yes.
So I'm following the words that were given by the king.
Okay. Then quickly speak to us about your initial support for Prince Makate to be the successor to the throne. And now we hear over the weekend that you've changed tunes and you're arguing that it is actually Prince Buzabazi who should succeed King Zwelithini.
In honestly speaking, the matter of the throne hasn't been discussed with the family. That is why we are saying, we even wrote letters to the president stating that let him give us a chance to explain to him how do we do things. Why do we say this is not the right way? Because Princess Makate was presented by people who are not supposed to present him to the entire family. And the way it was done, it was disrespectful. Because my understanding is that I've been sent by the king and the various traditional leaders, Amakosi, before they take the throne, to go and verify from the families that this is the right person that was appointed as the one who's going to succeed his late father. So we're following those instructions. We cannot jump and say, because now it's us that are in the same situation. So now we can do things without following. And with the guidance from the government that have set up, this is what we need to follow. And
okay.
we deal with the matters that has to be done in-house. There is a saying that people responsible for talking about the throne are those emaguleni at the corners where no one else will be allowed to discuss those matters. It's the very same core members that are supposed to deal with the matter and go out and let the other royal family members that are not part of the core, and then we'll give them the name, the one that was agreed as the family, to say this is the right person.
Okay, just quickly before I move over to the Deputy Minister, why or whoever was part of a meeting that said that Prince Buzabazi is the rightful heir to the throne, what matrix was used? How did they determine that it's actually him and not his brother, Misizulu, who's the rightful heir to the throne?
We have never said there is somebody who is not supposed to be the king. But the matter will come out once the family sits down together and appoint that particular. Now, for all candidates, because we treat them equally, because no one has, by this time, could be called as the king. Because there are certain rituals before one sits to the throne, before we hail to him and say, Bayete, because the family has agreed.
Okay, so let's come back. When we come back, let's have that conversation around how it normally does work. Remember that one of the court's judgments that was handed down was that at the initial sitting of the council or members who are part of the royal family, there was no dispute that King Misizulu is the rightful heir to the throne, and that's the reason why one of those cases was actually thrown out. That conversation when we come back.
No data charges when you bank on our app, so you can access your banking 24/7. Join the bank that believes in you. African Bank. Audacity to believe.
Vavas Jay, when we were watching Simunyamara, we were dancing more than a room divider.
On the classic Rehat Melody, Ostung, Olakasha. That was just Owen.
When men made us feel at home and 50-50 was just a show on TV.
That's because they were scared. Now we're learning lessons from the real bads on the estate and Guyani.
Hotspot saying says mom just right for the weekend.
Yo, I do this like I do this for TV.
I'm the real though. Paying our TV licenses keeps industries alive. Let's stay informed, educated, and entertained.
Making memories and telling stories for the now generation. Go to tvlic.co.za. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
And welcome back as we conclude this conversation. Deputy Minister, as you just heard now from Prince Mbonisi, clearly some members of the royal family are still not happy with what has transpired. You've already pointed out that there will be the symbolic handing over of the certificate, but considering that there's still this dispute, what happens?
Well, we will be urging family members really to find each other. And usually it's the family finally that must then resolve the issues of the family, because royal families are the ones that brings the name. And obviously the name of King Misizulu was brought. It went to court, and then the court then said that he is the rightful heir to the throne, and that is why the president handed out the certificate based on that particular judgment at the Pietermaritzburg High Court. And there's no other court. Yeah. All other courts have been dismissed so far on agencies or so, and obviously they have taken the route of going to the court. It's just the unfortunate part, because they are not themselves coming together to then really find each other and resolve the issue.
Is there legal duty to determine who are the people who rightfully have the right to sit part of a family meeting that's going to decide on who the next king will be? No,
this is not the duty of the legal fraternity. They listen to the case before them. Yeah. And they listen to the facts, whoever provides the facts that are convincing before the court, and then they make a judgment based on that. So probably those who had argued in court in Pietermaritzburg had all the evidence that was as convincing, hence the judge brought that particular judgment. Okay. And we as government will then go with the court, because it's the highest arbiter in the constitutional democracy when there's a dispute. And that is why the ceremony, the president will just be issuing a date soon to say, I'm going to KwaZulu-Natal, I'm going to be now doing that handover of the certificate and the coronation.
Okay. Mntwana Nkosinathi, just in conclusion, as you just heard now from Prince Mbonisi as well, do you think that they have a case?
Okay. Okubalekile la ngaso sonke isikhathi iba khona imbono yehlukane. Kodwa okubalekile ukuthi indlunkulu iyazazi izindlu ezifanele ukuthi uma ngabe kunempikiswano njengale kokumele zingavalelwa ngaphandle. Kunezindlu ezimbili noma ezintathu okuyizona ezeseke indlu yasoSuthu. Inkosi uMpande yazibeka lezi zindlu ukuthi kube izona ezizosekela uSuthu ukuthi uma kukhona ungaboni ngasolinye uSuthu kumele kube nendlu yakwangenetsheni ezongenelela okuyindlu umntwana uHamu okwavusa indlu yomntwana uNzibe omfowabo kaMpande, kuphinde kube yindlu yasentembeni kaMntwana uSitheku eyavuswa umntwana uMpande, kuphinde kube yindlu yakaMandlakazi okuyindlu kaMntwana uJama yenkosi uJama yasekhohlo okuyilokhu yama okuyiyona eseke izindlu zamakhosi. Lezo zindlu izona ezikwazi ukuthi uma ngabe kunezimo ezinjengalezi endlunkulu ibona fa behlale phansi bese behlulela ngeqiniso ukuze kuphume inkosi okuyiyona yona ukuze kucishe wonke lo mlilo ovutha, ngoba njengamanje ubuka kuxabene izindlu zomntwana noma zesilo esikhotheme. Uma ungabheka igodlo zakhe zo6 nempikiswano iphakathi, so kunezindlu ezinkulu okumele zingenelele njengendlela yakwangenetsheni, indlu yasentembeni nendlu yakaMandlakazi okuyizona ezobabalamuli abaqotho kule ndalo.
Okay, Prince Mbonisi, just quickly in conclusion, as you just heard now from the Deputy Minister, that the President will be attending the ceremony and there will be the symbolic handing over of the certificate. What happens now based on the arguments that you guys have advanced?
Thank you very much. I didn't recognize the Deputy Minister. Good evening, Deputy Minister.
Good evening,
and
Prince
your input for representing our government. You know, all the things that we are doing were tabled down to us and giving the instruction to follow those persons responsible for the succession. In this case, it's King Peru Zulu that are supposed to be the ones, because the princes that we are talking about are my daughter and because we represent their father who is late now. So how do you get the blessing from the other people to say you are rightful to be the next to take the throne? Without these people, as I'm saying to you, we are the core. We are not saying the other houses are not supposed, but it is tabled that people responsible for discussion, and the king emphasized that whoever without these people dealing with the matters of the throne and the kingship are the people on the list. So why can't we respect the word from the late king? The father of the late king, Zwelithini, is the one who wrote the letter to the Honorable President Mandela, stating that people that are responsible to deal with the matters pertaining the measures that I had to deal with the kingship.
Prince Mbonisi, unfortunately, we've run out of time. It's probably a conversation that we can pick up again later on, and also considering the letter that you keep on referring to that was sent to the then president of the country, Nelson Mandela, by King Zwelithini. Appreciate your time. That's Prince Mbonisi. And thank you so much to Mtwana Nkosinathi Zulu, as well as the Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Obed Babela. This is certainly not the last time that we're having this conversation, which is one that is boiling. At which point are they going to say, now we found an amicable solution? Enjoy the rest of your evening.